right, so welcome back to Happy Hour with Heather and Guest. I'm Andrew. Today I'm joined by Joey Diabolic. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you.
And
Good to be here.
we're here. I'm sorry?
Good to be here.
Thank you. Yes, I apologize for cutting you off. I was
Nah,
just
it's cool.
excited. We're um, we're here to talk about amongst other things, your latest album, Just Drive, which will be coming out August 25th. And I'm very curious to hear. There it is. Most of the music I've heard that you've put out before tends to be sort of horror themed with a little bit more of an industrial edge to it, much on the heavier side. This album was a radical departure from that. So I was just curious if you wouldn't mind talking about where the origins of this album came from.
Yeah. So I had completed three sound waves, 3 and 4 within 2021, both I think releasing in January and April. And then I did like a kind of a box set of all four through Soundwave EPs with a booklet and T-shirt, like a cool box set sort of thing. And that kind of felt like that was an era kind of summed up. And of course, I had started writing other stuff and I was working with other bands. And once I decided to move to Los Angeles, I was just kind of like, I'm not exactly sure if I'm just going to be doing singles, if I'm going to be doing albums, EPs, whatever. And, it was about 9 days to get out here, including a day off in Orlando. But by the third day when I was on the road, or the fourth day when I was back on the road, I had started digging through all these, like these recordings, voice memo recordings, just tracking riffs here and there. And I really gravitated to a lot of, I guess, more straightforward rock, Americana, bluesy, jazzy sort of vibes. And then, kind of country twang, especially driving cross country and stopping at all these places and kind of getting vibes and just meeting new people and just different cultures and everything. It was kind of inspirational. So by the time I actually landed in LA, it's like I think I'm going to do something different. Just whether it's accepted or not, that's whatever. But I just need to do it for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's enjoyable music. I mean, I really do. I didn't really know what to expect necessarily because again, I'm used to a much different genre from you.
Right? Yeah.
But it was really cool. It was sort of like I felt like I was playing the arcade game Outrun. I don't know if you're familiar. It,
The
it was like
title sounds familiar.
yeah, it was like an arcade game that was popular in the '80s, where you were in a convertible and you were racing against other cars. But
Nice.
there was a part where you could choose the music you wanted on the radio,
Hmm.
and I felt like I was in the arcade game again because a lot of the song choices were sort of what's on the album, kind of like new wave Americana rock and roll type stuff. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
even though the album is called Just Drive, I very much felt like the soundtrack for the film Drive, kind of resonated with me a little bit.
Okay. Yeah.
Um,
That's with
but
Ryan Gosling, right?
yeah. It
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
and
That's
the
what it
other
was.
thing I was thinking about is I remember I listened to an interview with Marty Friedman about why he left Megadeth, and he said, they in Megadeth you paint pretty much with black and gray, and he was like, but I wanted to paint with red and blue and purple, and I
Yeah.
feel like this really allowed you to get the full range of the color palette, if I can stick with that analogy.
Most definitely. Yeah. I mean, even like in the more industrial metal stuff, I'm kind of, I guess, known for. There would be like little bits of blue and green and but predominantly reds, blacks, grays. Some neutrals. If we're talking about color palette, but yeah, like, but also this kind of harpens back to like something that kind of really was inspirational from like Jimi Hendrix. Like he would like he sees colors when he does music, and it's like that's a really cool perception. especially when you're articulating sound into a visual medium.
Yeah. Well, and I read, I guess you had been listening to Morphine and the Police and America and Tom Waits and the Doors on this trip.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've been fans of their material for a while,
Oh
but
yeah, that's. I mean, I used to listen to all those bands myself. Not as much with Morphine, but I'm certainly familiar. There was one song in particular that a friend made a mixtape for me, so I was listening to that, and I remember thinking how cool it was the way they used the saxophone.
oh
Um,
yeah, and it's a three piece, and it's so full, and just the sound is just like you just kind of feel like you just walked into the coolest dive bar
oh yeah, absolutely.
with like the greatest band in the coolest dive bar, sort of thing.
Um,
So,
but yeah, my parents, where I'm staying with right now, they live just outside of Charleston, South Carolina. But
mhm.
we originally are from New York, so I would drive down with my father, and the Doors, the greatest hits of the Doors, the one where Jim Morrison is shirtless with the necklace,
Yep,
that
yeah,
was
the
on
iconic greatest hits. Yeah,
that was on repeat on a cassette tape in our car. That was like the between me and my father, that was like the middle ground that we both agreed on. Like, okay,
right.
we're both like he's not, he listened. I mean, his tape was Olivia Newton-John's Greatest Hits Volume 2,
Okay,
which I could listen to every so often, but I needed a change.
of course. Yeah.
And the Doors was our like agreement, like, okay, we'll meet halfway.
Well, yeah, too. Plus, like, if you kind of look through the Doors catalog and you try to take in consideration when they came out,
Sure.
what they're kind of ahead of their time for their sound, but like, kind of marrying like really catchy tunes, then sometimes a pop format, and then like more exploratory compositions, and then like really dark vibes and elements, and then elements being super heavy,
Sure.
and then also kind of light and uplifting and fun. It's
Yeah.
kind of a great amalgamation that they
Yeah, well,
kind of
it's
cornered.
also sorry not to cut you off.
Yeah.
Like I like Robbie Krieger being more of a flamenco inspired guitar player, and then John Densmore like having more of a jazz and Latin rhythms. So it was cool that all these other music styles were introduced. So it wasn't your typical rock band.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like fusion in a
Yeah.
instrumental way, sort of thing.
Well, and that's what was cool about listening to this record that you put out was I could sort of you're not going to hear the Police or America or Tom Waits in the record, but you'll definitely see where the inspiration came from.
Right, yeah. It's like, oh,
So
there's the nod right there.
right, so it was really cool. It's sort of like when if you have a band you love to listen to that's known for a certain genre and they do a cover of a song,
Yeah,
and it's sort of like, oh, okay, so this is Joey's version of Horse with No Name through the prism of his glasses.
exactly. And that was the thing. Like, so I think by the time I got to, uh, why is it escaping right now? To New Orleans, I had already started putting together not only listening to these demos or these voice recordings, but I started putting together like a playlist and like, oh, that'd be cool if I did a song like that. So I had a kind of like a template of how I would like to hear an album.
Yeah,
So, there was some Nirvana, there was America, Morphine, some Tom Waits, and then, yeah, there's always gonna be a little bit of like a goth element or like, a little bit of Nine Inch Nails
sure,
somewhere, yeah, at
sure,
least in one track or two. But I was just like, let me go as far as I can, you know, away from what people would kind of expect. And I also, when I was a kid, my dad used to bring me to the blues bars um, in Kingston. So I'd go up and play a couple songs, open jams and stuff like that. And that was kind of harkening back to that too. But now that I'm evolved as a player and I've become a songwriter as well. And that was the thing too. I wanted to evolve as a songwriter on this album.
sure.
So when I eventually do go back to what I'm kind of, I guess, known for, I can maybe be, look at these songs in a different light and improve upon them and make them better.
Yeah, well, this I would recommend that people who are interested in your music definitely check this. Don't just think. I certainly didn't think that this was like an asterisk or something. Like this was a one. Like this seemed like a really cool step in a different direction that I hope you'll continue either incorporating into music that you used to make or deciding to take this further. Um, it's not just like a wink and a nod. Like this was a really cool project that I'm glad you decided to spread your wings a little bit. Um, so I'm sort of curious to see what ends up, how this is received and where it goes.
Yeah, same here. Because I was working on an album before this, and I put that on hold, and that's kind of a little all over the place musically. But I was just like, let me do something to kind of clear the palette too. Plus, I'm in California now,
Right.
completely different vibe. Let me just kind of like do something. Just I'm at a different starting point at this, from a
Sure.
creative um, perspective. So let's integrate that into my sound and see where it goes. But yeah, I mean, I have probably like another 6 or 7 songs that I could do later down the road, whether it kind of be in the same vein as Just Drive or like maybe a little bit more Western blues, country vibe, Americana vibe, take a little bit less rock in it sort of thing. But,
Yeah.
we'll see where that goes,
Yeah.
or I could
Well,
just,
it's interesting because it is like you can definitely tell whether or not you have an identifiable sound. Like your personality is still there. Whatever
right.
genre of music you decide to delve into, like it's still gonna be Joey Diabolic.
Right. And that's kind of the thing. That's kind of like the one of the biggest things I've been trying to do is like develop my own thumbprint for. So it's like, oh, it's the metal version, it's the mellow version of Joey Diabolic, and kind of you can kind of play on the Gemini dichotomy musical aspect in that way. So
Yeah, well, I think you've definitely succeeded in being able to do that with this album. When it drops on the 20, I know right now there are a couple of singles that you can get that you can listen to at least on Bandcamp before the album releases in August. So check it out. I would definitely recommend that you start with this album, um, but recognize that this album is unique in terms of the other output. So you'll notice similarities, but it is definitely a hard left turn in terms of expanding the musical genre. Yeah, there it is. So, but yeah, definitely check this out. Go look at the back catalog that's available. Um, but it's. I'm really glad that you chose to go in this direction and just explore and see what it's all about.
thank you. Yeah, me too, man. It was really fun.
Cool. Um, are there plans to play play any shows with these or
Yeah, I've been kind of working on some concepts, actually kind of playing on the idea of doing mellow shows, which would be more geared around the Just Drive material, and then throw in some covers. And
that sounds cool.
then like one cover I've been working on is a Fleetwood Mac tinged cover of Pet Cemetery by the Ramones.
Wow. Okay. See, I'm already hooked on that, and I have no idea if that could even work.
Yeah.
But I would be curious, like right off the bat, just like trying to put all that together sounds like it would be incredible if it could be done.
Right, yeah. Got to build out the layers and stuff, but I'm still like figuring out how I'd want to sing it and perform it on the guitar. Do I want to
Sure.
sing it kind of in the lower register, like some of the stuff I'm doing on this album, more of a smoother vocal, or a higher pitched vocal sort of thing? So
Right.
that I'm
Well,
still kind of working on.
I look forward to hearing what the results are of that because it sounds like a pretty incredible concept.
Yeah, I mean, I might drop it as a single in 2024.
Yeah,
So,
well, the future is unwritten, as Joe Strummer would once said. So
true.
Keep making great music. I hope you
Thank
continue to
you.
take risks and chances. They're paying off. And for those of you out there, check out Joey's catalog. And on the 25th, pick up this album. It's called Just Drive. And it was great speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew. It was awesome.
Take care. Be well.
All right. You too.